Hello, welcome. Welcome, leaders. It is 1 p.m. Central Time in Austin, Texas. So happy to serve you today. Let me just take a moment with you for just a few minutes to settle in as we invite our friends in. It has been an interesting few weeks. It has been an interesting election season. It has been interesting serving my clients and what they're going through right now. A lot of external challenges and circumstances that are beyond their control. And this is why I believe today's conversation is timely. This is why I believe we need to support you now more than ever. So come on in, leader. This is your time. This is the time that you have allocated for yourself because you deserve more. And this is the more. You see, while you are serving your communities and you are serving your families and you are serving your organizations, you are serving so many people in different contexts and different areas of your life. You are serving. You are a leader. You're the one who said, I'm going to serve some folks. You're the one who said, put me in. I'm going to go after that promotion. You're the one who said, I can do this. You're a leader. But you may be asking yourself right now, well, I'm serving so many people. Now, who's serving me? Who is serving me? And not in a self centric, arrogant way. It's, I need help because I am exhausted, because I am burnt out, because I need support. And right now in this season, in my leadership practice, I am asking for help. So if you are a leader who is serving lots of constituents, lots of stakeholders out here, and you have been wondering, well, who's going to serve me? Who's out here that can support me? And the answer is we can. We can. We do this every single week in our live training sessions with you. Wherever you are watching this or the replay you're going to watch later, this is where you get support because no one knows you better than us. Us, me, my team, the Masters of Leadership Institute, we are designed. We were designed, we were made, we were born to do this work for our leaders. And so if you're asking yourself, who's serving me? Because I really need some support. Well, we're here for you every single week. And also, over on LinkedIn, I have a weekly newsletter. And so it's called Serve the Leader. Of course, we named it Serve the Leader. Wha- uh, It's the best title for a newsletter. It's what we do best. It is what my team and I are designed and born to do for you is to support the leader because we see you, we understand you, we know the frustrations, we know the overwhelm, we know the burnout, we know what you're experiencing, which is why we named the newsletter Serve the Leader. So you're going to want to go check that out on LinkedIn. Just look me up at Dr. Denise Simpson and then subscribe to the newsletter so that you can get that in your LinkedIn feed every single week. Or you can just join me here every week for our live leadership training so that we can support you, the leader. So, welcome. I hope you all are ready for our conversation today. As I was preparing this outline for today's training, and yes, I have outlines and I have points and things that I want to talk about that I don't want to miss in our conversations. I prepare ahead of time for our conversations today. And as I was preparing for this training, I couldn't help but think of the leader who's out here who is exhausted, who is under so much tension because of the election season, because of external circumstances that are beyond their control, things that are impacting their organization and their workforce. They are feeling a lot of tension right now. And I couldn't help but think of that leader in my head. What could I tell that leader today to help relieve some of this tension? I can't help but think of a rubber band. A rubber band. And you put a rubber band, and I don't have one with me. I wish I could have found one in the house. But a rubber band, you put it between your two fingers and it's loose. There's slack. There's no tension in it. It's just a rubber band. But then you feel the tension, right? Maybe on one side of the rubber band are your duties and responsibilities right now in the organization, right? They're heavy. It's a lot. There's a lot that you're being impacted. So is your team. Your team is also being impacted right now. So there's that tension on one side. But then on the other side, maybe over here it's some personal circumstances. Maybe it's your relationship. And so that you're pulling at both ends. Maybe there is, some other things that are happening, maybe health. Maybe a loved one is not doing well. There's tension on this side being pulled from you. And then on the other side, it's, maybe turnover in your organization. Maybe, attrition is something that you're being looked at right now. It's under review as a leader. A lot of people are leaving you. They're resigning under your leadership. So you're feeling this pull. So here's the rubber band, and it's going in opposite directions. And then we pull and we keep pulling the rubber band until the rubber band snaps. And then what happens to this leader? The leader then tells me it's burnout. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I hate my job. I got to go. That's because the rubber band has snapped. So my goal today is to help you take that rubber band and just drop it on your desk. I just want for you to place it on your desk. I don't want for you to touch the rubber band. I don't even want for you to look at the rubber band. I just want for you to drop the rubber band. So if I can help one leader out here right now release some of this tension that they're experiencing right now, then I won, because that's the goal. Just one person out here who says, I'm going to drop the rubber band before it snaps because I'm being pulled and there's so much tension in this rubber band. And I want some relief. And maybe you are the person who's going to drop the rubber band after our conversation today. That's my ultimate goal for today's conversation about compassionate leadership. We're going to show you some strategies for supporting your team, yourself first and foremost, because you are the rubber band. We want to support you first and foremost, and then as you are releasing the tension in your brain, in your body, in your spirit, then you can be the best leader you can be. And so remember the rubber band as we are going through this conversation today. And please post your comments. I'd love to see them. Amy, Amy is here. Amy says, get out of personal development purgatory. I love it. With Dr. Denise. I love that, Amy. That's so cool. And she also says, hand the rubber band to Denise. She'll give it back if you really want it back. I will. Yeah, you know me, Amy. And so will you. Amy will snap it back at you. No, I'm kidding, Amy. Amy and I are experts in our and very specialized, elevated techniques. So Amy and I have gone through some very sophisticated trainings, and we know how to help our clients in all aspects of their lives. And so today we're talking about this idea of compassionate leadership. It's like an idea that you can implement. That's the beauty of these leadership concepts. You take a concept, it's nebulous, it's abstract, but then we help you put it into practice right away, because we want for you to release the rubber band, at least for this season. If it's the election season that is causing a lot of tension, turmoil in your body, in your brain, in your nervous system, know that it is impacting the people you serve. Know that it is impacting your team members. Know that it's impacting your constituents, your stakeholders. You are having an impact either consciously or mostly unconsciously. So this is why we have to discuss this today. So as I was again, preparing for our time together today, I said, okay, so there's a lot of tension happening right now, a lot of external circumstances, challenges that are beyond our control. That's the thing. They're beyond our control. And so many of us are holding on to things personally. And yes, there are things that we have influence over, like the behaviors of our teammates. We can control their behaviors, but we can influence their behavior. See, in leadership, we have to remember that we are going to face many challenges on the journey of leadership in our organizations, in our families, in our nonprofits, in our, civic engagement duties. We're going to be faced with so many challenges that are beyond our control. And this is where the rubber band is being pulled in so many different directions. This is what you believe, but this is what you want to think is right. But then you believe this to your core. But then you're hearing somebody else talk about it in another way that may be changing your mind. So there's this pull in that rubber band. There's a tension, and then when that tension breaks and the rubber band is in half, that's when you give up and say, I'm done. That's it. I can't do this anymore. So before the rubber band breaks, let's talk about some of these strategies to support you, the leader, so that you can then in turn go support your teammates. Isn't that all we want? Isn't that what we want? To be better leaders? Because our people deserve a great leader, because our families, our constituents deserve the best of us. See, leadership is a privilege. Some of us have forgotten about that. Leadership is a privilege. Not just anyone can lead. And you all know there's a lot of these people out here leading that have no business in leadership. They have no business leading others. So it is a privilege. And that's just a reminder that we do have to take care of ourselves. We have to remember what our intentions and purpose were when we first got into leadership, and how some of these external circumstances that we are experiencing right now as a country, as humans, it's there's a lot of tension, and we have to do something about it, because leaders go first. Leaders go first. You raised your hand, remember? You're the one who said, put me in. I got this. I got this. You're the one who wanted this leadership experience. So now we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what can I do then to relieve some of this tension that I am personally experiencing? And then how can I support my team do the same? And so every time I was coming back to this outline of strategies, I kept telling myself, but what's the root here? What does this leader need to know before they implement these strategies? What does that leader need to know before that rubber band snaps, before it's too late? Well, I want to remind this leader that leadership is about humanizing our people. It's about humanity. Leadership is about the leader follower dyad. It's this relationship. That's what a dyad means. It's a relationship that we have with ourselves. And because we have such a strong relationship with ourselves, we then can have these relationships with our followers, with our constituents, with our own children. It's going back to the heart of leadership, literally, the heart of leadership, the core of humanity is thinking and feeling through this organ called the heart, where I think my mind sits. My mind rests right in the middle of my chest, where this organ lies for me. This is where I feel the connection to my purpose, to my intentions, to my people. And this is where I want to lead from. This is why today's conversation is called compassionate leadership. I know some of us out here are going, wait, what? Compassionate? I don't want to think about my employees. I don't even want to feel anything about them. I don't even care about them. And you want me to have compassion for my people? Wait, you want me to start thinking with my heart instead of my logical, reasoning, rational brain? So we get to do it all. We get to do it all, but I want for us to talk about why it's important for us to have compassion, especially during these tough seasons. Whether it's a global pandemic, whether it's a national election, whether it is a war around the country, around the world, whatever these external circumstances are, whatever you and your team is faced with right now, we're going to bring it right back to compassion. Compassion for ourselves because we are pulling at both ends here. We're the rubber bands. And if we're feeling this way, then best believe your team is feeling this too, because we're all, experiencing the same climate out here. We're all experiencing it, although we interpret them differently, we make things mean differently to us. But if you are feeling the tension like a rubber band, then know that your employees are feeling the same or more, little less. But this is why compassionate leadership is where we need to focus our attention on today. And Amy says, I like what you said here, Amy. Clear intentions actually change brain chemistry and neural wiring. So important. Oh, see, that's why Amy, she's incredible. And Amy also says brave heart, having a brave heart. I know, here's what's interesting. I had a client who said to me, who I am in the office is completely different than who I am at home. I don't care about my employees. I'm not there to make friends with them. I'm just here to do my job. And I had to remind this client that you take your brain and your heart everywhere you go. You take your brain and your heart everywhere you go. If your intention then in leadership is to not feel a thing because you're afraid that if you feel something, if you feel any kind of way about your employee, right? You can't control it. You don't trust yourself with those feelings. So you put armor on so that you don't feel kindness, compassion, right? Respect, loyalty even. I mean, there's so many interesting leaders out here who have yet to understand their emotional regulation and how you can feel compassion, feel empathy. A lot of us out here are empathetic leaders. We can feel these deep feelings for our people, that it's okay that we feel this way. But so many of us out here have been trained out of our emotions. We have been numbed out of our emotions. Why? Because of people that we have been following in their footsteps. Leaders that showed up in the office had no emotion, no care for their employees, and then here we are thinking, well, that's the way they lead. So they got to the top. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to practice the same. I'm going to be the same. And so then you have people at the top with no emotion, no care in the world for their employees. Well, it's no wonder you reach a point of burnout. It's no wonder you reach a point of resignation because you haven't learned how to manage your emotions and leadership. So I talk a lot about we and Amy and I talk a lot about neuroscience. Amy is here with us today. We talk a lot about neuroscience around here because it's important that we leverage the organ between our ears, just like we're leveraging the organ in our chest, the heart, compassion. And so it's important to understand that we do have more control of our thoughts and the neurochemicals that are formed through these thoughts. See, a lot of us leaders out here don't know that. And so this is why I always loop it back around to neuroscience. Now, the last few weeks, and Amy joined us in a few of those, we've been leading up to today's conversation. We've been talking about the amygdala hijacking that happens in leaders when they are activated in a stressful response. Some respond with fighting their way out of the conversation or the argument. Some flee the room. They just run away because they want to avoid it altogether. Some fawn. Some are pleasers. Yes, actually, whatever you say, I'm not even going to argue with you. You're right and I'm wrong. Yep, that's a fawn. And then the fourth one is freeze. You freeze because your nervous system got, yeah, it got rattled a little bit, and you go, "Wait, wait, 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 whoa, 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 what just happened?" We know our patterns well enough at this point, and if you don't, let's start looking at those patterns. Let's start finding those patterns, how you react in stressful situations. So the amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is the executive decision maker. The prefrontal cortex loves strategy, loves to plan. It's the visionary. It's always looking ahead. And so that beautiful prefrontal cortex of your brain is on when it is looking long term, but then the amygdala hijacks the entire brain and hijacks the prefrontal cortex. This is why that saying, I saw red. I saw red when that person told me this. It's because it blinds you. You stop thinking, you stop using the executive decision maker, the rational reasoning part of our minds. So the amygdala hijacks us. So when emotion is high, logic is low. And so this is why leaders need to know this. We're in a season of heightened emotions. We're in a season of tension. And especially here in the United States, where we are experiencing this election. And so to practice compassionate leadership, like Amy said, that's having a brave heart. It's it's saying, okay, this hasn't worked. Now let me consider doing it this way. Let me do something differently. And maybe it is compassionate leadership. And maybe these strategies today are going to help. And so let's talk about that. So we want to do first and foremost a compassion check-in, right? We want to check in with the team. Now there's some of my clients out here who'll say, talking about my emotions to my team, that's ridiculous. It's so unprofessional. There's no way I'm going to, spend a whole meeting talking about my emotions. And that's the false belief that a lot of us leaders have out here. But I want for you to consider this survey that just came out that 1 in 5 employees feel so lonely in the organization. They feel misunderstood. They feel like they're invisible. They feel like their leaders don't care about them. They don't care that they're there. They don't really feel valued. And so, although it's, a lot of us leaders out here say, well, that's not my responsibility. Well, it is, especially if it's under your watch and especially if they're working for you in your department. So, we're going to have to care. We're going to have to find a way to care. And so, this survey that came out with 1 in 5 employees feeling lonely, I mean, that got me thinking, wow, how did we get this wrong, leaders? We have failed our employees. We want them to come into the organization with a clear intention, right, Amy? Clear intentions because they chose this organization. They're working under your leadership. They're under our stewardship. And so what are we doing? We're failing them. And so when I talk about a compassion check-in, we don't have to do therapy sessions with our employees, but we can check in with them. And you can do this privately if you're not able to do this as a team. Perhaps it's bringing them in one by one and checking in with them and asking open-ended questions, right? It's showing them, I see you, I care. How are you doing? It's the what questions, it's the how, the why questions, open-ended questions is what we want to ask them. And so I have a client who mentioned to me that one of their employees has started to show some interesting patterns. And because I talk so much about pattern recognition, the skill of pattern recognition, and we do that so well as leaders. We do that as parents. We know how our kids going to respond before they do. We know how our partners, spouses, lovers are going to respond before they do. We are pattern recognizers. And she said to me, there's been an interesting shift in his patterns. And, I don't know what to do. I don't know, how to coach him through this. I don't know how to lead him through this. It's just like it's clear there's clearly something going on. And so then I recommended that she check in with him, a compassion check-in, not a performance check-in. We already know how he's performing. He's not. There's a pattern interrupt. There's something happening in his performance patterns. So how about instead we do a heart to heart. We get him to come in one-on-one. We do a compassion check-in instead. It's like, listen, We can talk about your performance later, but I want to check in with you. How are you doing? Tell me about what's happening. Is everything okay? Because as the leader, you are curious as to why the change in behavior, why the change in patterns. So instead of your brain going, well, we're just going to fire him. Like we're just going to have to put him on a performance improvement plan and just fire this dude. No, no, hold on, pump the brakes. Let's have some compassion here. If we're using our heart to think through these matters, why don't we have a compassion check in? We know how he's performing, but have we checked in on how he's feeling? And maybe he is those, 1 in 5 that's feeling lonely in the organization right now. They feel unseen, unheard, disrespected, undervalued. And so maybe he's 1 in 5 of your team that is feeling lonely right now. And maybe compassion, doing a compassion check-in may actually help him turn his performance around. And so it's being curious, it's asking open-ended questions, it's leading with compassion. Now, Amy says, I intend to understand them and you will. Yes, if that's right, if that's your intention to understand them, then you will. Amy also says achievement and metrics are of the mind. A heart conversation is good. I 1000% agree, Amy. It's times like this. Right, as a leader, we're so flexible and we have to be flexible in the mind and in the spirit and in the body. We have to be agile. So there are times where we're on it. Prefrontal cortex is on fire. We are leading, we are using our, visionary strategic planning skills. We are, looking into the future. We are leading our, teammates. We are, activating them with metrics, with measurements. We are in the flow of things. And then there's times where we just have to take a pause and go, okay, performance is down. What am I missing here as a leader? Oh, okay. There's external circumstances circling us right now. There is tension happening right now. There are discussions that are happening in break rooms, by the water cooler. There are interesting conversations that are taking place right now because of what the world or what the country is putting on my team. Okay, because if I'm feeling the tension, I bet they're feeling it too. So that rubber band analogy being pulled in different directions, they're feeling the same tension one way or another in one part of their life or in many parts of their lives, just like you are. But we don't want for the rubber band to break. That's why this conversation is to help at least one person out here that can say, okay, I'm going to drop the rubber band. I'm going to find relief in knowing that I can lead with compassion because if I'm feeling this, my team is feeling this too. One way or another, they are experiencing this tension. And so drop the rubber band as we cover the next two strategies. So the first strategy, again, let me remind you, it is having a compassion check-in, not a performance check-in. You do that all the time already, leader. Let's try something different. How about we do that compassion check-in? So I encourage you to check in with them either privately or with a team or with the team and then asking those questions, those open-ended questions and lead with curiosity here. How's everybody feeling? I'm just checking in. Listen, next week in the United States right here, it's a big deal. Okay? It's a big deal. And I know we have diverse perspectives on this team and I respect every single one of you. I respect every single one of you. And I just want to make sure that we are all emotionally, physically equipped to be here the day after they announce the election. That's all I mean, wasn't that simple to say? Isn't that the simplest thing you can say without getting into the nitty-gritty of things, without starting an argument? It's you taking the lead. It's you showing civility. It's you showing that we can work together despite our differences. And by the way, I really care about your emotional levels. I really care about how you are feeling right now in this season of so much tension. But like Amy said, it takes a brave heart to do that. Let's put Amy's comment back up. Amy said, brave heart, having a brave heart. And that takes a lot for a leader to lead with compassion. So, strategy number 2 is active listening. It's a strategy, it's a skill mostly, right? The strategy of using active listening so that when you are having those compassion check ins, you are actively listening. You're not just waiting to respond, right? How many of us leaders out here go, wait, you got that wrong. Let me jump at the chance of correcting you because you are out of line. So many of his leaders do that. So step back and actually practice active listening where you sit there without judgment or bias. And I know that's hard, especially when you have a human brain. It is so challenging to sit there actively listening. And that just means reading between the lines. It's meaning trying to get into the depth or the true meaning of what they're saying. Right. So instead of pouncing to respond, we are actively listening to understand. That's the goal here with this second strategy. Now, here's something I will say. So many of my leadership clients tell me, "Uh, but I'm the leader. I have to have all the answers. So if somebody asks me a question and I don't know it, I can't look stupid. You know, I have to, come up with something." So I just want for you to remember you're not supposed to know everything. And they know that, by the way. They know you don't know everything. And so what I like to do is say, okay, well, what you're telling me right now, help me better understand. Again, that's you coming with curiosity. It's you coming with this element of compassion. It's saying, I'm curious. Can you tell me more about that so I could better understand what you're saying? And then, if you truly don't understand what they're saying, you can always say, I don't know how to solve or help you solve this problem, but let me go do some research and figure it out. Let me take some time to actually see what I can do to help you solve this problem. And so that's you saying, I don't know what you're talking about and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to go do my research. I'm going to do some work so that I can come back and help you. That's a better way of saying you don't know. You don't know the answer to that. So I want for us to start looking at how to practice or develop and hone the skill of active listening so that we can better understand what our teammates are going through, what our direct reports are experiencing right now. And so what does Amy say here? I just saw something come through. Amy, let's see. The mind is so busy while someone is speaking. We can simply tell the mind, I don't need you right now. Oh, that is so good. What a good strategy. Y'all take that strategy. I'm going to take that strategy. It's like, no, I don't need you right now. Just relax. I've got somebody in front of me. I have someone in front of me that deserves my undivided attention and they are experiencing tension and they're experiencing some kind of stress, some kind of overwhelm. It may be, from the impact of the organization, what's happening in the organization, but perhaps it's external, perhaps it's, the election season that we're in, perhaps it's, the price of groceries right now and the things that are happening right now in our economics in the United States. Perhaps there's other things that are happening. So I'm going to sit here patiently. So brain, thank you. Don't really need you to say anything right now. Just actively listen to the person that's in front of you. Wow. I mean, if I had a leader who showed me that much respect and compassion, I'd be an incredible leader. I mean, an incredible performer, right? I mean, I got into leadership because I didn't have those role models. Can you imagine if I did have those role models? I mean, this is what we can do for our teams today. This is what we can do for our departments right now, for our workforce, is actually be these role models, models of excellence, models of civility, models of compassion. But it takes some discipline. Don't you agree, Amy? It takes some discipline with our brains. So thank you for sharing that. So that was strategy number 2, active listening. Now, for our third strategy, let's talk about building a culture of support within our teams. So Amy and I know a lot. We're experts in values. And we talk a lot about values with our teams, with our clients. Um, We talk about how values drive and fuel our decisions, and as leaders, um, we invest in what we believe is valuable in our lives. And so when we bring this idea of values into our departments, you know, and what I do with my clients is I have them list their own individual leader values, what they value the most as leaders. And then I have them get into their teams, and their teams then do their own individual values, or their employees do their individual values, and then they create a shared values list. And the shared values list is it's like our guiding values. It is the North Star. It is what drives us. This is what we aim for every day. These are the values that as a team we have come up with together. These are the values that we have decided to make our guiding guiding elements. And so when I talk about strategy number 3, I'm talking about you making compassion a top value on your shared values list with your team. It's having compassion for each other. So what does that mean? It means we get to understand each other's differences. It means we get to have some conversations that you may not be able to have with your own family members, but you can actually have them civilly with your teammates, right? Someone may agree with a different political party than the other, and so but you can still, because compassion is such a strong value in your department, you're able to have these conversations without a fight erupting. So consider putting compassion as one of your top values. And so for me and my team, it's when we're disagreeing on something, when there is a strategy that I have come up with and they have disagreed, that compassion is up on that values list. And that values list is conscious, it is exposed, it is explicit to everybody on the team. It's what they receive as soon as I hire them. It's the training that they receive as soon as they come on board. The onboarding process looks very much like what I do with my senior level leader clients. We talk at nauseum about these values because it's important that if we're going to work in this organization, and this is the culture that I as a leader am setting forth, this is the standard here, my friends. And yes, there's times where I've had employees say, I don't agree with some of this stuff and I don't really like your culture. Then this isn't the place for you to work, probably. Then thank you for your time, but I think it's time for you to move on. So you as a leader, you get to set the standard. You get to set that list. But yes, as we're working with our teams to collectively come up with that shared values list, we're not forcing anybody to put a shared value, to put a value that they don't agree with. No, this is a team building exercise. We're all in this together and we're all coming up with this values list. So the strategy is a really important one, building a culture of support by putting compassion as one of your top values. And a lot of leaders tell me, this shouldn't be a team culture thing. Like it, there's other values that we should put before compassion. I disagree. I disagree, especially when there's so much divisiveness in this world. There's so much polarization in our economic political climates. Why wouldn't you want to put compassion as one of your top values? This is only going to benefit you and your team. So when an employee says, "Oh, this is a compassionate leader. She cares truly about me. She's done a compassion checklist. She knows about my performance is not doing very well right now. I'm not doing very well right now, but she actually took the time. She took the time to ask me what is going on with me. She took the time, and because she cares, and because this team cares, because it's one of our values, that employee is going to perform higher than your others. I guarantee you. If you put these strategies in place, you report back to me and you tell me if it did not make an impact. I'm challenging you all, I'm challenging myself as well. I want for leaders out here to put these 3 strategies in place and then tell me how you were impacted. Your performance, your team performance was impacted, morale was impacted, productivity was impacted, kindness was impacted, grace for each other, respect for each other was impacted. I want for somebody out here to challenge me on this one, really. Listen, I'm just trying to make a point here. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just trying to make a point. Go put these strategies in place and then tell me how they have impacted your teams. So let's go through those three strategies again before we wrap up our time together. And if you have any comments, insights, questions, put them in the comments, please, before we wrap up. So, again, we talked about compassionate leadership, the strategies for supporting yourself, the leader, and your team through these external challenges, through these very interesting times, through the election season that we are in right now, through all kinds of interesting things that are impacting your individual organizations and impacting the lives of your team members right now. And there are three simple strategies that I want for you, the leader, to put into place. Because as I mentioned at the top of our time together, the analogy of the rubber band being pulled in all kinds of directions. And when that tension can no longer withstand, that rubber band breaks. And I don't want for that to happen. That's the point of our conversation today, is to help one leader out here drop the rubber band and find some relief in their bodies today, in their minds and in their bodies right now. So these three strategies are, again, number one, the compassion check-in, checking in with them individually or as a team, asking these open-ended questions, the why, the what, the how questions, getting them to talk about how they're feeling, what's happening right now in their lives, how it's impacting their work. Because remember, they're under your stewardship. And so you are responsible. Ultimately, you are responsible for the performance of that team. And so this is just one strategy. And if you're uncomfortable with feeling compassion or feeling any kind of way other than, you know, a a steel a steel plate, like a lot of us leaders come out here not wanting to feel a thing, then you're going to want to come and see us, because we can support you through helping you understand your emotions and leverage your brain and your emotional body so that you can be a masterful leader. That's what we get to do in the Institute. So that's strategy number one. Again, strategy number two is active listening. Developing the skill of active listening, honing the skill so that you can better understand what your employees are telling you, right? There's some deeper levels of understanding that you need to learn through active listening so you can better support them. So, strategy number three is building a culture of support, compassion as a team value. All right, leaders, listen, it is an interesting time right now for everybody. And I don't want for anybody to dread the day after election day here in the United States. I want for you to show up in your full authority with so much compassion for your employees. You know their patterns, but there's times where events like this, like an election, a global pandemic, a war, whatever, there are circumstances that may be more jolting to them than the average stress that they feel. There's compounding tension that may be happening. And next week, their rubber band may break, depending on what they make this election mean to themselves, right? What it means for them. And I want for you to stay steady. And if you practice compassion, I promise you, you will. So that the day after, when they're coming into work and some are going to be very excited, some are going to be unmotivated. And you're going to want to be the steady energy in any room, in the office, in the department. I want for you to be the anchor so that they can feel safe with you, because you are showing them compassion, whether, you know, they're responding one way or another. You are the constant. You are the common denominator. So you put these strategies into place today, and then you're going to see how this is going to impact them next week, the day after election day. All right. I hope you found today helpful. Dear leaders, Amy, thank you for joining me, and all of our friends who are following along throughout our social platforms here, and then who will watch the replay. Thank you so very much. Let me again invite you to our LinkedIn newsletter over on LinkedIn. It's called Serve the Leader. Again, the whole point of serving the leader is because you are serving so many constituents, you're serving so many stakeholders, your families, your communities, your employees. Who's serving you? You may be asking yourself, who's serving me? Not in an egotistical, narcissistic, selfish way. No, you genuinely need help. And we are here to serve you every single week, right here, wherever you're watching this. These free leadership trainings are for you because our primary intention here is to serve the leader. So make sure you subscribe over on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. And Amy, it's always good to chat with you here on our live streams. Take very good care, everybody. And I will be here to support you next week as always. Take care.